Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm just continuing with my Road 2 series where I kind of share my insights with you all as I hit each of the milestones in my lifts. Today we're going to focus on deadlift, and I'll share with you, the tips and tricks that I learned along the way to hitting a 500-pound deadlift. Now, I wanted to say up front to make sure that you wait until the end of the video. I actually have some footage of that very first 500-pound deadlift of mine to share with you all. I'll let you know right up front, my form was terrible. So if you want a good laugh, go ahead and wait until the end to check that out. Now, as far as like training goes and getting that first 500-pound deadlift, the main thing that I learned on that road was very similar to my first 500-pound squat and 300-pound bench press, and that was simply just passion in training, right? I learned to enjoy the process and really like lifting heavy weights and progressing, and along with that, I finally had some coaching that put me on the right progression pathway, where at least we were doing things like linearly periodized. With linear periodization, maybe I'll put it that way. Basically not maxing out every week or every other week. Now, what you'll notice about both of those things was neither of those has a whole lot to do with the deadlift itself, right? I learned to push myself to get stronger, and I had some sort of program that I could follow to get stronger. Now, something that I will say about the deadlift, which was different than my squat and bench, were deadlifts weren't in the program for football nearly as often as squatting and bench pressing. So most of my deadlifting was done on my own time, and I think that's part of why my deadlift form wasn't up to par at this point. And a lot of it was practice, because in football, a lot of our deadlifting was done on the hex bar. And as you know, and we would do the hex bar with the raised handles, which means you could get a much more upright position, and it's less of a bend and more of a squatting movement. So as a 17-year-old working through these weights, I didn't have a whole lot of experience with a hip hinge. And something you'll notice was I wasn't able to set my back correctly. I had a lot of lower back rounding. So that's something that I'll learn about later on. And even whenever I eventually deadlift 600 pounds down the road, my positioning isn't entirely correct, or it's not the best positioning possible. So you'll kind of see as these series of videos progress how my form changes. And I think that was kind of it resulted in my confidence with deadlift being lower than the other two for a long time. For a while, I thought I just wasn't a deadlifter, and my leverages weren't made to be able to deadlift a whole lot. But now that I can look back at that, and my deadlift has caught up to everything, and I would say I'm a decent deadlifter at this point, right? By no means phenomenal, but I can hold my own with good deadlifters. It's just been that progress of form. So back to me as a younger lifter, a lot of that progress was just starting with passion and competitiveness. And maybe that's something that you all can relate to. Go ahead and drop a comment down below. I'm curious to hear, did you get into powerlifting, or your first times lifting weights? Did you ever have that competitive feeling where you just wanted to get better at all costs? Right? And maybe form wasn't what you focused on the most. I know that's certainly me. If you look at my old squats, my old deadlifts especially, my form suffered because I just wanted to get better and get stronger. So I think that's a big takeaway. As a lifter, we all know, hopefully at this point, that form's going to play a big role in getting stronger and actually progressing those lifts after long periods of time. But maybe early on, it's just that passion that drives you. And eventually, like, passion can only take you so far. And that's what I'd like to get across here today, is at about this 500-pound mark, you know, I think the video I show you is a 515-pound deadlift. That's about the limit as far as my passion could take me. And then I ended up having severe back soreness after this. This was leading into the football season, my senior year of high school. So I did have to kind of dial it back from training. After that, once I got back into deadlifting, my back really started to bother me, and I'm sure that was a result of my poor form. So after that 500-pound mark, then I was just forced, like, hey, you have to clean up your deadlift, because if I didn't make that pivot, I just would have been stuck in this endless round of injuries. And maybe you know people who are like that, who are really passionate about lifting things, but they won't take the time to learn the movements and become good at their craft. So they kind of hit a mark and then they get injured and it sets them back, and then they'll get back to that mark again, and it sets up for this endless loop. So, you know, that's the key to progressing past this mark, whatever it may be for you all. And that's the thing with this series. I want to make it clear that don't expect to be able to hit these milestones. You know, maybe you'll hit 600 pounds when with the same cues and passion and drive that I had just to hit 500 pounds. Everyone's kind of individual, but at some point you're going to have to bring that back around to your form and put focus into that, just like I did. So here we are. I'm about to come up on this deadlift, so let's sit back and check it out. First thing you'll notice is the Vallejo belt, right, with the way larger back than the front. You could tell I was trying to sit down into it, but because I sat down, it pushes my shoulders behind me, right? And as we all know, just because of how the body's set up, if the shoulders are behind the deadlift, your hips will have to come up before the deadlift leaves the ground, and that results in some rounding of my back, and the rest is history there. Okay, so there you are, my first 500-pound deadlift. Hopefully that provides some insight for you all as far as like what got me there and what it took to hit that first 500 pounds and beyond. So thanks for swinging by. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe. As always, happy lifting, and I'll see you next time.